Good morning and welcome back to BIFA TV, your daily dose of industry information. Today we're joined once again by Ian Matheson for this week's What the Papers Say. So Ian, thank you so much for joining us this morning. How are you?
I'm pretty well, thank you, Brooke. And as you know, we're now in September and it's the
Yep.
start of the season of mists and mellow fruitfulness.
I think that's the first time we've started one of these episodes with poetry, I think.
Well, it is indeed, Brooke, but never, always a good time for a first. And a
Yep.
lyrical thought from John Keats as the season changes and begin to sort of think about shorter days and
Yeah.
colder weather.
Yeah, I know we're starting now, but I know we've still got all that to look forward to. But in the meantime, what have we got coming up for this week?
Well, the dreaded T word just won't go away, of course.
Hmm.
Last Friday saw most of Donald Trump's global tariffs declared illegal by a US appeals court that found he'd had exceeded his authority in imposing them.
Yep.
A panel of judges in Washington, they upheld an earlier ruling by the Court of International Trade that Trump wrongfully invoked an emergency law to issue the levies.
Mhm.
And I guess the issue will almost certainly end up before the US Supreme Court.
Yeah. And I know from what I understand, the levies are remaining in place in the meantime, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that's correct, Brooke. Yeah. In related news, you won't be surprised to hear that the destinations for China's e-commerce exports are shifting.
Hmm.
From May to July, the US share slid to 15%, and that was down from 31% year on year, while those for Europe surged to 27%, which is up 6%.
Hmm.
And analysts say the pivot highlights how China is realigning its global e-commerce trade flows and also how the US tariffs and the removal of de minimis thresholds are having the effect that those analysts predicted.
Yeah, I know it's definitely something that our members that are involved in e-commerce, it's a trend that they'll have to keep in mind.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the recent end of the de minimis exemption by the USA is certainly causing plenty of confusion.
Mhm.
Clearly, Mr. Trump thinks that he's got systems in place now that will help him strengthen US revenue collection
Mm.
and underscore the administration's sort of firm, bullish stance on imports.
Yeah, on that, I saw that Royal Mail, they'd originally stopped accepting packages, but I know they've started again now with a new service, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think you're correct. Yeah. But as I say, Brooke, I think it's all a bit confusing. The
Yeah.
Federation of Small Businesses has warned that the whole thing will push up costs and create barriers for small firms in the UK trying to compete with bigger brands.
Mhm. Yeah, it's more important now than ever that especially those small businesses, they're using BIFA members, especially those that understand those tariffs.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Mm.
Now, as I mentioned last week, Brooke, in the shipping sector, there's a realignment of global shipping fleets going on in anticipation of next month's extra port fees that are being
Mhm.
levied by the US on China-linked tonnage. And that's seeing container shipping lines switching vessels from the USA into other trades in order not to be stung come this autumn's new American penalties.
Mhm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that affects kind of the capacity in those trade lanes already.
Of course, how it affects rates as well,
Yeah.
Brooke. Now, in other news, all road hauliers from yesterday that are entering the European Union, Norway, Switzerland, and Northern Ireland are obliged to file an entry summary declaration under the EU's new import control system.
Mhm.
That's ICS2, which is the EU's security and import control platform designed to tighten supply chain monitoring. After air cargo and maritime shipping, it was extended to road and rail in April this year. And now road hauliers face the full obligation. The ENS, as I understand it, must be lodged at least 1 hour before arriving at the EU border.
Mhm. Yeah, I know that some countries they delayed that implementation just because they simply weren't ready, but I know that some they did go ahead with that as of the 1st of September.
Yeah, that's right, Brooke. The Commission has apparently allowed for derogations, which are
Mhm.
optional deferrals until the end of this year. And I read that at least 15 of the EU countries have taken this up. And again, that's causing confusion and
Yeah.
raising fears of penalties and queues at the borders. And it's actually led to the International Road Transport Union to call on the European Commission to
Mhm.
introduce a 6 month European wide transition period.
Yeah, I know Claycat, they made a similar statement last week as well, didn't they, requesting that?
They did indeed, yeah. Yeah. Now, in the aviation arena, I read an interesting article from Magma Aviation on aircraft size and how that can really matter in air freight and its role in greening aviation. Magma says that the new generation narrow-body models like Boeing's 737-800 and Airbus's A321-200 cut fuel burn and emissions, lowering costs and meeting stricter sustainability standards.
Yeah. And of course, you also have to look at, because they're smaller, they have quicker kind of loading and unloading times as well.
I think that's the case, yeah, and redeployment times as well.
Yeah, of
So
course.
that's led Magma to say they're ideal for e-commerce and perishable goods, as well as serving secondary airports and feeder routes, connecting smaller markets to global hubs more
Yeah.
efficiently.
Yeah, of course, that's an interesting point. So what else have we got?
Well, and finally, there's a significant anniversary for one mode of transport later this month.
Okay, what anniversary is that?
Well, on September the 27th, Brooke, it's the 200th anniversary of the opening of the Stockton and Darlington Railway.
Yes, yes.
That ignited the railway revolution as the world's first public steam railway. And
Mhm,
since the start of the Stockton and Darlington Railway, we've seen a rapid global adoption, transforming trade, industry, and travel, and laying a bold iron foundation for modernised, interconnected economies.
mhm. Yeah, and as we know, a lot of our members now use rail as kind of part of their mix as well, don't they?
They certainly do, Brooke. And to be honest, since this episode started with some lines from poetry, I felt it was appropriate to conclude it with some more poetic news.
Sure.
Last week, the 200th anniversary of the railway, the Stockton and Darlington, was celebrated with a new commemorative poem from our poet laureate, Simon Armitage. It's
Okay.
titled The Longest Train in the World, and it's well worth a read.
Yeah, so we'll definitely will put a link to that in the description.
Oh, thanks, Brooke. That's handy.
Right, well, thanks, Ian, as always, for this update. I know that our members will find it of use.
No problem, Brooke.
As always, we will put the links to all of the articles and reports we've discussed today in the description for any of our members who want some further reading. That's all for today's edition of BIFA TV, your daily dose of industry information.